can say it, I deserve it, right? But internally, they have so much built up trauma that I can say it out loud, but I don't feel like I'm worthy.
You cannot move being this comfortable. The guest we have today is going to change your life.
We didn't go into that thinking like, damn, what if this doesn't work? What am I gonna do? If you don't think that you have the future, you're not worried about the future.
And so once I understand where I've been, now I can make educated decisions. I got to live in trauma to have to overcome it.
Every single day is a battle with yourself.
They host the very popular Earn Your Leisure podcast. They have 1.5 million followers just on Instagram alone.
Creators of the Earn Your Leisure platform, and they have a new book, You Deserve to Be Rich.
This is what we're seeing. These are the characteristics of the wealthy. This is what they're doing. Our job is to decipher what they're doing, try to interpret it, and give it back to you. Building legacy and doing it with the people you actually love and care about.
So the restaurant industry isn't easy.
And today we have
Larry Morrow himself, owner, and as well as his grandmother, some Chong here.
So when I wake up and do it consistently, like the results aren't coming from me just getting lucky, it's coming from the consistency in my day. So that's one of the things I think has truly helped, me figure things out. Also just surrounding myself with a lot of mentors.
The book, You Deserve to Be Rich, just exciting, man. Y'all journey going from a kitchen table with some iPhones. Did y'all see this?
Nah, I mean, you go into a space just trying to add value, not really thinking about the outcome. I think it's something that we shared a lot of times is we never thought of it as a business at first. We just thought of it as a value add. In fact, we were just trying to help him get more clients. You know what I'm saying? And then it quickly turned into something that we couldn't have ever dreamt of. It was like this commonplace information and conversations that we were having, we thought people were having as well. And we quickly found out that that wasn't the case. And people started gravitating toward it. And so it became the fuel, like, wait, we can change somebody's life today? Like one person? That's great. And then we watched our first episode with 1,200 people listening. I'm like, oh wait, 1,200 people are listening to this? This is something different. And every week that just kept growing and growing and growing. And then the places that it was reaching kept growing and growing. And it was like, oh, this is something spectacular. This is what we got to do.
All right, what'd you see, man? What'd you see?
Like Big Sean said, he said, if you ask me how I feel, I'm gonna just say it's everything that I expected. You gotta believe it before you actually know. You never really know exactly how it's gonna turn out, but yeah, kind of did think it was going to, have the vision. That's why I started. So that's important a lot of times. Like, you gotta believe in yourself before anybody else believes in you. So I think we believed in ourselves before anybody else believed in us. Or even anybody else even really was thinking about it. It wasn't really like that they didn't believe in us, but it just wasn't nothing. Like, so there's nothing to really even think about. But yeah, definitely thought that it was a good idea, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so like even in the beginning when, again, the two of us had to believe it, right? Like there was always that, did you ever think this was gonna fail? And I can attest to, like, we never had a conversation like, what if this doesn't work? It was like, it's gonna work because this is what we do. But even the closest people to us, when we said, like, we're about to start this podcast, like, I'm not even sure if they were listening, right? Like, probably until like the 5th or 6th episode, like, oh, they're really serious about this thing. People started catching on, and the world kind of caught on and was like, oh, wait, they're doing something special. We got to tap into them. But it was more about the people that were getting information and actually executing. That changed it.
I know y'all never said to yourselves, this might not work, but did either one of you ever feel it? I would have mentally quit on stuff mad times. You know what I mean? Like, you get that, if anybody here, you going after something, you might get a business right now. You're like, man, I'm about to rebrand, which means we're going to do something different. But you never felt that ever?
Nah, because it was already, it wasn't really like designed to have like Earn Your Leisure, the platform, start a show, do events, all of that stuff. It was, you build the pyramid one brick at a time. So social media started originally when I was doing social media to build my financial planning page. That was my main focus. Like, we was teaching in the classroom, but it wasn't really, he came up with the name Earn Your Leisure the name Earn Your Leisure was just a hashtag for my own personal campaign that I was doing. So it wasn't, when you ask like, did you think it wasn't going to work? The initial intention was to build social media followers so I can get clients. So I wasn't really thinking like that. And then by the time we actually started Earn Your Leisure, we had momentum already. So, we come out the gate and we already had listeners and we had followers, and within like 12 episodes, we was in the top 10. So it wasn't really like something that we had to think wasn't gonna work, because the wind was already at our back.
I think another thing that also benefited is, like I said, we weren't thinking like, oh, we're gonna create a podcast and we're gonna try to make money from this, because we hadn't seen anybody do it, right? Like prior to us, it was like there was nobody making a podcast and saying we're gonna become millionaires for making podcasts. The part of it is like I wasn't even an entrepreneur yet. Like I was teaching, and so I wasn't relying on it for money. I was like 6 figures as a teacher. I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. He had a career, he had a business already. This is just something that we were doing, again, to lure more clients in, and kind of a need base. He did an interview, and people were like, where can we get more of that? Like, what's the name of the podcast? And the first time somebody said that was the first time we thought of, we should do a podcast. Like, it happened in that moment. It was like, all right, well, what does that even mean? Like, how do we even create that? Like, what does it take? Like, what do you have to do? How do you record? What are you supposed to record with? Who are we supposed to talk to? What are we supposed to talk? All those things were literally created in December 2018, and then almost 6 years ago to the date, Earn Your Leisure started.
But to answer your question even better, to kind of nail it down, like, you come with different ideas, like idea for InvestFest, right? That works out, but everything doesn't work out. So I don't really think about thinking like if it doesn't work out or not. Like sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. Like it ain't really that big of a deal if it don't work out. It's just a learning experience. But I think you get crippled in fear. That's all in your mind. Like worrying about if it's gonna work out. We go into everything thinking it's going to work. We don't go into anything thinking it's not gonna work. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It ain't really, not gonna kill you. So that's kind of like the mentality from the beginning. We've started other businesses before. We started an app for DJs. We started a fashion blog. We didn't go into that thinking like, damn, what if this doesn't work? What am I going to do? We went into it with the intentionality that it's going to work. We tried our best. It didn't work. You gotta give it the college effort. Try your best. Go as hard as you possibly can. Cross all the T's, dot all the I's. And then sometimes everything is not meant to be, but you learn some things in it. So we don't really go into anything in life just thinking like, what's the worst possible thing can happen? It's not going to work. If this doesn't work, what's going to happen? Like, we don't really think like that.
It's that belief, right? Like when you ask people in here who thinks they deserve to be rich, I heard like 2 claps. I'm like, wait, they don't think they should be rich? Right? Like people have to feel that. There was a belief system, a trust system that we had in each other. Like, nah, man, like I know if we do something, it's going to be great just because we believe in ourselves and we have the confidence and we have the work ethic and dedication to make that happen. So like when I heard the claps, I'm like, damn, this ain't New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody should have that mindset. Like you deserve this. Like abundance is your birthright. Shout out to Ash Cash, because it is. It is. It starts here though.
Absolutely. I thought the subtitle was super interesting. Master the inner game of wealth. And my favorite chapter of this whole book is chapter 2. Everybody got your books, right? Yeah. Congregation? I need to turn into your book. The book of Rashad, chapter 2, page 48. We're going to go to page 48. Go to page 48. Y'all going to read with me, right? Are you there? Page 48. Here we go. Go on, open the book. You got to open the book. In the very top, I thought, and I highlighted this part. It's, first off, the name of the chapter is Dealing with Financial Trauma. I never associated wealth or finances with my feelings. But on page 48, it says, how you feel about yourself reflected, and how you feel about yourself is reflected in your relationship with money. Can y'all explain that for me?
Yeah, for sure. It's a direct correlation. We come from an era where it was like blowing money fast. That was a slogan, right? And it's like, when you don't feel confident about yourself, then you do things to overly compensate. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, if you don't think that you have a future, you're not worried about the future. So it's better to live in the moment And for delayed gratification is somebody who's actually thinking that they're going to live for 30 years and there's a better tomorrow than there is today, right? So there's a lot of that in the book as far as just breaking down the mental barriers, because we give you the tools as far as retirement and real estate and stocks, I'm talking about crypto, but none of that's going to matter if you don't really mentally think that A, you deserve it, B, you're worthy of it, C, you're going to actually take the disciplined steps. These are all things that kind of come with a certain level of maturity. So, yeah, you see that a lot.
How do you, okay, someone, they can say it, I deserve it, right? But internally, they have so much built up trauma that I can say it out loud, but I don't feel like I'm worth it. How do we get over that?
It's one day at a time. It's like a real slogan, like one day at a time. That's what I always say, like just win the day. Every single day is a battle with yourself. Like, you know what I mean? You gotta fight internally every single day to wake up, look in the mirror. You gotta do progressive, positive things to keep you above negativity. So you gotta wake up, you gotta read, you gotta work out, you gotta look at the market, you gotta do all of these things. You gotta be in positive circles. It happens. It's one day at a time. And as you start to win a day, you start to win a week, you start to win a month, you start to win a year. Before you know, you start to win a decade. So that's important. You're not going to change your life in one day. You're not going to change your life in 2 hours. I mean, but you can start that process, and you have to be intentional about it. Like, you know what I mean? So thinking that way is going to actually benefit you, because you look at anybody that's really accumulated real wealth, they always think long term. They're always, they're confident in themselves. Like, you went to Dubai, you don't know who has money and who doesn't have money. They all dressed the same. They got white robes on. You might have a different watch, but other than that, you don't really know how much money they got. You know exactly how much money we got, because we're going to show you, like, I mean, but that's because they're confident. They're already secure in what they got. They don't need to show you. They actually don't want you to know. Like, you know what I mean? But that comes from a level of maturity. That comes from a level of, understanding that, yeah, it's good to, just have fun in this moment, but it's going to feel better if I can invest this money, double it, quadruple it. I mean, that's going to actually be more beneficial than me spending something on a depreciating asset that is not even going to be worth nothing in 2 years.
Yeah, that's like our trauma response. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to spend, right? When we don't know what to do, our default is to do what we know. Spend, right? We become consumers, and it's something that's been passed down to us. Right, investing is something that's not been passed down to us. And so how do you defeat that? You got to address it. You got to meet it where it's at. That's why the financial trauma part is so real, because there's so much to unpack. Why are you like that, right? And in order to understand why you've come to these conclusions and why you're making decisions, you got to get to the root cause of it, right? Like, you might have to have a conversation with your parents. You might have to have a conversation with grandma and see, like, why did they always tell us to save money, put in the bank, put in the bank, put in the bank? They didn't have a firm understanding of what the bank is actually doing with the money, right? Like, why do we have cash checking in our neighborhood? Why are we taking our money there, right? We're giving our money, they're taking our money, and they're giving us a piece back, right? When we could just open a bank account. Why don't we have brokerage accounts, right? Why don't we trust banks? Like, there's so much trauma in our community that we haven't addressed and spoken about that can heal that, right? So once I understand where I've been, now I can make educated decisions. That's part of that chapter is my story, right? Like, I got to live in trauma to have to overcome it, right? Like, I had to understand more about real estate because I watched my parents struggle, and I watched the fear, and I watched the anxiety, and I watched them not being able to do anything, right? Being a standstill because of the trauma that they face from not being educated. So how do I compensate for it? I over-educate myself, and then I go give it out to people so that they don't make the mistakes not only that my parents made, but generations around them made as well.
So, anybody here, like, when you heard the dealing with financial trauma, you felt, man, I think I got a little financial trauma? Anybody here? All right, cool. We got a good crowd here. 50. Now I'm about to trigger y'all. 59, page 59. Go to 59. 59. It's called spending excessively. I triggered. I saw some handbags in this audience.
We know how to do that.
At the other end of the spectrum, spending like there's no tomorrow is also rooted in financial trauma. It reflects the belief that since there will never be enough anyway, I might as well live now. YOLO. The nonchalant attitude behind this, YOLO. Learn that from rap music. The nonchalant attitude behind this attitude masks a sadder reality. It suggests that you've given up on any possibility that your financial future can be any different from your current experience. Y'all want to explain that? This is deep.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to, like you said, that speaks to the mentality that, like, you know what I'm saying, we grew up.
Not you, though.
That's the idea.
It's the slogan as far as, you only live once and blow money fast and, ball till you fall. Like, what does that really mean? Ball till you fall. Like, you're going to spend money till you go broke? You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to fall. I'm not trying to fall, Dave. So the thing about it is, like, what? That does speak to the deep psychological trauma that we went through in the United States of America and we're still going through. It's not just for no reason. Like, you see people get incarcerated, you see people pass away, you see people have diabetes, high blood pressure. Yeah, it's going to have a psychological effect on you to be like, damn, I want to just be able to live. I don't care if I just have a good summer. At least I had a good summer. You know what I mean? So that is a real thing, and sometimes you don't even realize that it's in your subconscious. But it's in the actions that you're making, and then when you start to realize it, it's like, okay, now I'm realizing why I'm doing these things, right? Like, but if you don't, it's like going to a therapist. If you don't actually look at it from the outside perspective, then you're just going to continue to do the same patterns over and over again because, like you said, you don't know what to do, you do what you know. So okay, you get money and you spend it. You spend it on a car, you spend it on a chain, you spend it on whatever. Like, you know how to do that because that format has been provided for you. It's been provided for you from people in your neighborhood. It's been provided for you from rappers, entertainment. That's a blueprint that we know how to follow. Now we're getting a new blueprint to follow. Now we're getting a blueprint to follow as far as how to actually be an entrepreneur, how to actually invest, how to actually have the trust, the will. This is a new blueprint to follow, right? So you can do both, but at least now you have an alternative to the pathway that has been glamorized and popularized for so long.
Yeah, and inside that, like you said, we're going to try the ball till we fall. And a lot of times people are going to fall, and we've seen that path. How do we make the corrective behavior? Well, let's make sure that we educate people around the space about what an asset is, right? And so if you're buying gold, right, making sure that it's cut to a point where it's something that could be sold again, right? We always talking about bust downs, and we're talking about having big diamonds. It's like, it's cool to look at, right? But when you study the inner game of wealth, it doesn't look anything like that, right? The wealthiest people in the world, like you said, you're not even gonna know what they look like. Psychologically, we want to show people how much wealth we have, right? Because it's like, we gotta get it. Now I gotta prove to you I got it. So I gotta buy the big car, I gotta have the nice watch, I gotta have the chains. And there's a sense of relatability, and that's something we can speak about as well. It's like, yeah, I've made it because I wanted to inspire you, right? But this blueprint that we're doing now, especially us sitting on stage, and I know we got a couple other guys that are coming, as an entrepreneur doing it, and using tax incentives and using education and showing how assets appreciate like gold, like diamonds, that's a new way to think, right? Like, I remember Jay saying it, like, ain't no reason why I be buying expensive chains. And I'm like, so then why the hell you keep buying them, right? And this is the guy I'm looking up to. But the education around it makes more sense, right? Like, how can gold appreciate over time? Well, we can look at it for the past 10 years, we can see it's an appreciating asset. Oh, here's a teachable moment. Here's another appreciating asset over that same 10 years. Bitcoin. You see what I'm saying? And so those little key points of intersections of where we can teach from those mistakes, so valuable.
That Bitcoin thing, every time it goes up, I'm like, dang, I should have bought it. It got to like 30,000. I'm like, the run is over. It's over. And then I get to 60. I'm like, well, it's really over now because it's at 60. It was at 30. I didn't buy at 30. I don't. You understand? And it's at 60, I'm like, it's over. Then it goes to 100, I'm like, all right, bro. And I just said the same thing. I'm like, all right, 100, it's over. Should we buy Bitcoin real quick? First off, hold on, this is the question. What should we buy right now before Trump get in office? What y'all doing? Y'all got a little?
You got one day. Oh, who said that? Why you said that?
Is that?
You might have heard a smart guy say that before. So, yeah, I mean, he's talking about, he said TSM, which is a manufacturer for AI chips.
I'm sorry, TSM?
Yeah.
I asking these questions for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the future has already been laid out for us. It's right now. You see what I'm saying? So if we're talking about AI, and we're talking about what runs AI, it's going to be GPUs, which are graphic processing units. Who makes those? NVIDIA. Who makes the fastest ones? NVIDIA. Who actually manufactures those chips? TSM. And so if we look at the landscape, is that a company we can invest in? Absolutely. If we know over the next 5 to 10 years that AI is going to revolutionize the world, it's going to replace a lot of the workforce. We know that we're going to keep using computing power. Now quantum is coming into the light. That needs to be powered by something, right? And so TSM, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What also makes a lot of sense is who's going to power that revolution? There you go. This guy's been watching Market Mondays.
Say it louder though.
So he said a company named ASML. Why is that important? Well, TSM manufactures chips, but they don't make the machines that manufacture the chips. So they have to get it from somewhere. So this is a supply chain, right? They talk about the gold rush. People were always looking for the gold, but the people that made the money were the people that had the shovels.
And real quick, I'm sorry, you said it was the
ASML.
ASML?
Yeah. ASML.
I listen.
Because, I mean, just think about it.
Deserve to be rich.
They make the machines that go to the manufacturer. The manufacturer makes the AI chips for pretty much every company, from Apple to Microsoft to Meta to NVIDIA, who was a supplier, Broadcom, name them, AMD, Texas Instrument. All these semiconductor chips are being manufactured by one company. And so that's an important company for the future. So if we're looking for a company to invest in, that makes a lot of sense. But that's how you break these things down. But the fact that you could just yell those out tells you that the conversation is changing in our community. You just prompted that, and that just automatically came out of nowhere. Not nowhere, but there was a prior knowledge that came from it, and now everybody gets to hear it. Like, that's the beauty of this moment, man.
Yeah.
Like, appreciate you for that.
And then, it's never too late to get into a good investment. Like, I remember when I first brought Bitcoin, it was $5,000. So at that time, it was 5,000, and then I remember it was running up, and it went to 20,000. And when it got to 20,000, I remember my dad was saying, like, why would you have something that costs $20,000 that's not real? Doesn't even make any sense. Like, like $20,000 for Bitcoin, like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's going to crash. Everybody thought, like, it's going to crash. Then it went down, and people like, I told you so. Like, it's not valuable. Like, why would it, like, 20,000? Why is something worth $20,000? Now it's worth $100,000. So yeah, I purchased it at 5,000, but I'm late to the game to the person that purchased it at 1,000. And they're late to the game to the person that purchased it at 500. They're late to the game to the person that purchased it at 100.
But is 100,000 still cool? Should we get a little bit right now?
Yeah, well, it depends. So this is again.
You know what I mean? These are the same.
This is important. Now, this is important because we get that question a lot, right? Like, is this the time to invest in? What I always tell people is like, are you educated on it? Right? You can listen to me, but do you believe in yourself? Right? And so the belief is like, if it's at 100,000, is it too late? Well, if you believe it's going to 10 million, it's not. If you believe it's going to 15 million, it's not.
What do you believe? You believe 10 million? Are you thinking 10 million?
You believe in me?
Yeah. I'm gonna read this book, bro. Hey, look, before I bring up
but also you gotta look at it from a standpoint, even if it goes to 120,000, you got in 100,000, well you made 20% of your money. Right? Like,
that's good.
Only people that don't understand money don't think that 20% is something that's valuable. You understand money, you understand 20. If I can do 20%, that's good. What else you gonna do with 20%, right? So if it goes to 150, okay, you're not going to get 1,000% rate of return, but you're going to get a 50% rate of return on your money. That's good. That's a good deal. So of course you always want to wait for a pullback. You want to try to buy things. I mean, I think if it gets in the 80s, that's a great opportunity to buy. If it gets in the 70s, you definitely want to buy it. But there's also a way where you can put dollar cost average in, right? So you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket if you feel a little bit risky about the situation. But if you believe, like you said, I mean, the million would be great, but most people think that over the course of the next 12 months, you could definitely reach 150,000. That's something that's a realistic number. Is it guaranteed? Of course not. Nothing is guaranteed in this world when it comes to investing, but that's something that most people believe can actually happen, right? So if you look at it from that standpoint, yeah, you waited, but 100,000 might seem like a big number, but if it gets to 150,000, then you get 50% of your money in 1 year. That's a good deal.
But 5 years when it's 500,000, you'll be having the same conversation. Yeah.
But do you think in 5 years?
He said something important, right? And like, it was only kind of like 2 people that said, yeah, that's right. Like 20% is an amazing return, right? Like people have to realize that, right? When it's interesting, when people put their money in the bank and they put it in their savings account and they get 0.03%, they don't even question it. They're like, oh, okay, right? And then you leave $10,000 in there and you made 3 cents, right? This one, like, we gotta be educated in the space. Even if you get a high yield account and it nets 4%, you're like, oh, okay, that's great. I feel safe there, right? Like if you put it in a brokerage account and you invested in S&P, right, on an average return for the past 73 years, you're talking about 11%. 11%, and most of us up until over the past 5 years didn't even have brokerage accounts. You see what I'm saying? It's just the education process. This is like when we talk about the title of the inner game of wealth. When we go into rooms and we get into these spaces and everybody's like, you guys are everywhere. This is what we're seeing. These are the characteristics of the wealthy. This is what they're doing. Our job is to decipher what they're doing, try to interpret it, and give it back to you. And that's our job. That's what we've been doing.
So the key to getting wealth is all a math equation, right? So it's all about math. Everything comes down to math. Math is the universal language. If you think about it, it's the only language that is the same. In every culture, every language, every part of the world, math is the same. So the first thing you have to do is lower your expenses. That's a math equation. You have to figure out how much money you're actually making, how much money you're spending, and actually lower it, right? Then you have to actually, if you have a business, we talk about 7 streams of income. That's a number, right? So you have to find ways to get 7 streams of income from one business. Then you have to actually find ways to actually invest the money that you're making, right? And make multiples off of that money. So we can break this down, but that's really the formula to be successful, to be rich, if you really look at it from that standpoint. So spend less money than you make, right? You start businesses, but you gotta have multiple streams of income. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, you gotta have multiple streams of income because that's more money that's coming in. You invest that money over the course of time, and that money produces more money for you, right? And then it's just a matter of time. It's just like working out a formula. It's just a matter of time before you back into whatever number you want, whether it's 100,000, 500,000, $1 million. You just got to figure out, okay, how much money can I make? $1,000 from this business, $1,000 from this business, $1,000 from this business, right? So to break it down even more realistic, it's like everybody's not an entrepreneur, but everybody can have multiple streams of income. So like Troy has spoke about this before, as far as a teacher. He was a teacher. So the average teacher is just going to school and getting paid whatever teachers get paid, right? And that's it. But as a teacher, you're actually an authority in what you're doing because you have more information than 99% of the world's population, right? You went to school for it. So if you're a math teacher, you can get paid from teaching math, but you can be a tutor, right? And then if you want to take it a step further, you can actually have a tutoring business. A lot of people struggle with math. You can also be a consultant to different school districts because you have an authority in a space and you can actually teach the teachers. Then you can actually develop curriculum. We developed the curriculum. And you can actually sell. You know, New York City spent how much money did they spend on extracurricular stuff? They have a budget of billions of dollars that over and above what they have to spend with outside vendors. Nobody even thinks about that. These school districts have a lot of money that they're spending with outside vendors, right? So it's like, of course you could do the summer thing and camp and stuff like that. So, and you can write a book. So as somebody that has a 9-to-5 job, that should not block you from having multiple streams of income. Having one stream of income is too close to none. You gotta have multiple streams of income. But then from those multiple streams of income, you gotta invest the money. Then you gotta keep your expenses low. You gotta just don't do anything stupid. It's just a matter of time before you get rich if you really follow that blueprint.
It sounds like people are probably like, damn, that sounds pretty easy to do, and it really is. He didn't even tell you yeah, I could tutor one-on-one, but we come from a space where social media is prominent, right? So now I could put whatever I'm teaching, I could teach that in my kitchen, use a whiteboard, and now put it on social media. If it's on social media, now I can put it on YouTube. If I get enough people to watch it on YouTube, now YouTube is paying me to teach what I already taught the kids in my classroom. You see what I'm saying?
Listen, I gotta bring up another one of your wealthy friends. Because I really just need some more game, and I've never actually, and I've come across a lot of entrepreneurs. I've come across a bunch of people who own a restaurant. Anybody in the food industry today? Y'all bake cookies, some? No? But I've never seen someone with such a big vision, literally no fear, and he really has a blueprint because all the stuff he does just works, man. I need y'all to put your hands together for Larry Morrow! New Orleans own Larry Morrow. Yeah, you know what's crazy? First time we went to New Orleans, me and my wife,
How y'all doing?
together, we're just looking at like top restaurants. So we go to Morrow, and it's phenomenal.
Can we make a round of applause for that? Hey, yo, what?
Let's gauge it too, because it set the stage. So what we do with this book tour, a lot of times, most times you go to a book thing and they don't actually speak at all. They just sign the book, give you the book, and take a picture and you call it a day. But everything that we do, we want to. The key to be successful is over deliver, right? So we wanted to make these events in different cities. So we come and we actually have conversations, and then we bring different people that's relevant locally. So in New York, we bring out somebody. In DC, we bring out somebody. In Atlanta, so we came to New Orleans, and we had to hit our guy up because he obviously has like 70 restaurants in New Orleans. Just running around. He's going to share information, entrepreneurship, Jim. So once again, give it up for Larry because the time out of the schedule for this.
So we're just looking at like just Google best restaurants in New Orleans, and Morrow's comes up. We go to Morrow's, we're like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. It's just an amazing place to eat. Then we leave. If I'm being honest, I did not think he looked like that. The owner? I didn't know the owner would look like me. This is like inspirational. You go to somewhere like a fancy restaurant in your city, a Ruth's Chris or something, you never really think about who started it. But when I found out that you are the one that started all these amazing restaurants in New Orleans, it was so inspiring because I saw myself in you. And then I got a chance to sit down with you and realize you really have a blueprint and a formula. So please, one more time for Larry Morrow. I appreciate that. I want to know, first off, the restaurant industry isn't easy. And I saw a stat that most people fail in it. What is your blueprint and why do you keep opening stuff, bruh? Different states, right? It's like you don't have any fear. I want to know how you developed that blueprint, bro.
Honestly, it may seem like I have this blueprint, but every day I'm figuring it out. I don't have it, all figured out, but what I do is we build our systems and we just duplicate them, and every concept I have is totally different. So they're all similar in the sense of how you operate them, but it's just different menus, it's different. We're trying to streamline everything and make everything, consistent across the board, whether it's the service you get at the steakhouse or the service you get at Morrow's, right? So as we've grown, we went from Morrow's to Treehouse to Monday to Sun Chung, and every time it got better because we got better. But with the steakhouse, that's like our standard now. Like the service, everything about it is totally different than what we are now. Like, so we're going back and just, modifying everything because our standard is there now. So we just basically just duplicating what you're doing at all locations. You just got different menus and same level of service, just maybe catering to a different clientele. So, just being consistent with what we're doing, and you say I have no fear. I actually do. It's not easy to jump off that cliff and build that plane on the way down, but sometimes I put myself in a position to where I put pressure on my shoulders intentionally so that I can, how can I know how far I can go if I don't know where I can live? And so when I'm
go ahead, clap for that.
I make tough friends of mine, like, sometimes you gotta put that weight on your shoulders because we might be afraid to do it, but thinking that we can't do it, but when you put it on your shoulders, you're able to lift it. And so that's what I do, man. It's not easy doing it, and I'm afraid at times, it's not easy because, you gotta, at this point, it's much more to lose than what maybe 5-6 years ago, but I've just learned that you just gotta go for it. And it won't always turn out the way that you want, but if you don't take the shot, how would you ever know? All it takes is one shot. You know, you shoot 10 shots. All you gotta do is make that one.
So from an entrepreneurship standpoint, you know, you've been able to be mentored by like the most successful people in your industry, like billionaires and stuff like that, right? Like, what information have they given you that you've been able to implement in your franchise or your food chain industry?
I would say, and just not even entrepreneurs or mentors of mine in the industry, because all business applies in some way or form, you know. So, like this morning, I had a conversation with Mike Novo, right? It was probably 9 a.m. and
I'll let that go over there. Mike Novo grad, the guy was worth like $7 billion. That guy?
Yeah, I had a conversation with him this morning. We were on the phone for like 20 minutes, and I was just calling him. You know, we were chopping it up and we were talking some business, and you know, I get information from him, and then after that, I get a call from my homie Sidney Torres. He's owns a garbage company here, worth a few $100 million. And it was just crazy, like, because I'm thinking about it as we're talking right now, right? That damn, I was talking to these guys this morning. So I think one of the things I've learned from, you know, them, whether it's Eugene or whether it's different people in the industry, A-Life in Houston, or just anybody in business, is like, you got to have, you know, good habits. Most successful people, you know, they wake up and they know where they're going, they know what they're doing. And that's one of the things about me. Like, every morning I wake up, I'm doing the same exact thing. So when I wake up and do it consistently, like, the results aren't coming from me just getting lucky. It's coming from the consistency in my day. So that's one of the things I think has truly helped, you know, me figure things out. And also just surrounding myself with a lot of mentors. Shout out to, you know, like I was saying, Mike, Sidney, Eugene with Catch Hospitality. Prior to meeting Eugene, Catch has always been one of my favorite restaurants ever since I tried it in 2017. And I was in Catch in 2017 in LA, and I said I wanted Morrow's, just before Morrow's opened up. I was renovating Morrow's, and I said I want Morrow's to be the Catch of the South. And, you know, it's the law of attraction, it's manifestation. A few years later, I connect with Mike and David Berry, and they saw how serious I was about this industry. And even Mel, you know, Mel connected me with everybody, and they saw how serious I was, and then they said, you know what? We're going to introduce you to Eugene. So Mike set up dinner at his house. I go to New York, and it surprised me with dinner with Eugene. My damn, it was dope, because as a person who, I thought the restaurant was like the coolest restaurant ever, you know, I surrounded myself with, you know, I was blessed to just connect with different people and network with them to where I put myself in a position to where I can get mentorship from these guys. So, you know, it's being consistent and networking, man, has really just catapulted everything.
Power of proximity, man. Clap it up for that. I mean, when we met you, it was interesting. Your name already had preceded you. I never saw you. I just knew your name. I think the first time we talked on the phone, it was actually about trading options. It was like midnight, and I was trying to explain to you, like, yeah, bro, I still don't really get it, though. And I was like, all right, man, let's get on the But and then when we came down and saw what you meant to the city, it clicked. In the book, we talk about legacy. We went to Morrow's, and we had, the hospitality was incredible. And you're like, yeah, that's my mom. I said, wait, hold on. There's a deeper story here. Talk about, because this is something that we do. We always talk about, people say you shouldn't work with your family. And that's kind of how we built our business. I see that you've done the same. Talk about building legacy and doing it with the people you actually love and care about.
Oh, man. Well, I can tell you this, it's not easy. I'm sure it wasn't easy for y'all. And it's things that you got to work through. But it's things that you could never give up on. Me and my mom, you know, just doing that venture with my mom, Morrow's, it was a challenge, but it was so rewarding at the same time. We, you know, we would kind of have a lot of issues in the beginning, because it's like you're walking a new journey with your mother, you know, like a path that you haven't been on with her. So y'all gotta respect each other's space, respect each other. You know, I'm not just your son, I'm your partner, you know. And that was the conflict, because Lil Larry that you know at home is different when I'm handling business, and you know, I can be a lot different, you know, because I mean business. And so it was tough, but we got through the process of just like learning how to work with each other in the same space. And her being such a dominant woman and me being a dominant male, and her wanting her way and me wanting my way, it taught me a lot of patience for sure. But we got through that, and then as we started to like, my mom, she was like, I'm like, yo, look, we can open more restaurants. And she's like, how? It's already hard managing one. And so at that time I heard about a guy named Tillman Fertitta. How many of y'all familiar with Tillman? So Tillman is like one of the largest restaurateurs in the country. 600 plus restaurants, owns Post Oak in Houston, Bubblegum, the Rockets, what's the casino in Lake Charles?
Golden Nugget.
The Golden Nugget. He owned a bunch of stuff. And so I read this book by him. It's called Shut Up and Listen. And it just talked about the restaurant industry, and I saw how he was able to do it. So I'm like, if somebody's able to do it, that means it's possible. So I'm explaining that to my mom, and she's like, well, I don't know. So, I just had the vision, and I would do a lot of research, and I decided to scale up. And, I would just, let her know, and like how this can be done. And, we went from that to this. But just because we had the vision, but the process of us working together and just understanding our roles as, partners really helped us be better to each other, because sometimes you may try to, do something that's like for her to do, and you'll try to do it and not like communicate properly, which sometimes it just causes conflict, which I'm sure y'all understand. And so you just learn how to just work with people, and if you can make it through that, with your mother, then, think about the reward that comes from just being able to empower your family. Because now, like, I got this video where I walked into my grandma. she worked in this beauty store about 8 years ago. In 2016, I found this video on my Instagram. I walked into her store and I said, Grandma, in 2 years you can quit your job. And so she repeated it in the camera. He said, my grandson said in 2 years I can quit my job. And so I saw that video recently, the other day, and I started crying because I'm like, damn, like, look at the law of attraction. Like, I've been able to empower my family. My grandmother quit her job. She ain't never got to work again. But that was all just through, being intentional, legacy, want to do stuff with my family. Because I could have went another route and just called it quits, but I didn't, because I just was in love with the fact that I can do this for my family.
So I want to know your inner game of wealth. How do you look at wealth? Because I asked a question earlier, is anybody in here rich? Right? And they define it different ways, right? But I want to specifically talk about financially. How do you approach finances, or how do you look at wealth building personally?
Man, it's crazy because my perspective is totally different. 10 years ago, I thought I was a rapper, so I went through that rapper phase, which I think we all culturally have been through a phase of where we went.
It's the things that we bought.
Yeah, man, I had a bust down Rolex, thought I was on top of the world.
Hold on, do you remember any of the rap still?
I didn't rap.
Larry Morrow, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear one.
I didn't rap, I was just in that that mindset, and I think a lot of us culturally get stuck in it, right? Because of what we see. And so I told you I had a bust down Rolex, thought I was on top of the world. I sold that Rolex back in like 2016 maybe, and I bought my first piece of investment property. And, I was just, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out who am I? What do I want to do? And, that vision isn't clear until you really identify who you are and what it is you want to do. So if you got a target you're aiming at, it's easy. If you got a target, it's easy to aim at it. But if you don't have a target, then it's like you just shooting in the air. So I think once I put my eyes on that target, it made a lot more sense. But, as far as like wealth, I thought having wealth was looking like wealth, like you were saying earlier. And truthfully, when you get a different perspective, like I've been in the inner circles of the culture and, the industry, you know what I mean? And where you're sitting at a table with 20 people and the bill come out and there's only 3 people paying the tab, right? And I'm one of those 3 people. But everybody look like they balling. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, like, this ain't what it is.
That's a feeling.
Like, no, seriously, or we go get on a boat and they got 20 people on the boat, but there's only 4 people paying it. I'm like, why everybody look like got Jews, got, at this point, red bottoms and Balmain denim, but that's not who I wanted to be. I didn't want to look like money, but then you start to see the other side of things of having friends who are wealthy, friends who wear the same stuff every day. You know, like City Torres, you go in his closet, everything black with Chelsea boots. I'm like, damn, your life is simple. I wish it was this easy for me to get dressed. Or you might, you know, get on a plane and go to wherever with a friend, and you see how they don't have all of the things that look like money, but they have, I mean, that make them look wealthy, but they actually are wealthy, right? They can get on their plane and fly across the country. So having both of those perspectives really changed my perspective and said, you know what? I don't think I want this, I want that. And I don't want to look like it. I want to be able to actually create generational wealth for my family and not just wear it. So like you see me now, like, you know, I got watches, but I don't wear them, you know? I mean, because at one point I felt like I needed it. Like I'm that bust down Rolex, you feel me? Well, I'm not bust down, but you feel me? Like I'm that no diamonds, still holding the value, you feel me? So I started to look at myself as the prize versus wearing that watch and thinking that watch was the prize. You feel me?
My man Derek Crockett says when you get over the good look, you can make some good money.
Facts.
Let's talk about relationships, because that's been the secret to our success.
This is not Blackout.
No.
Okay, all right.
Different relationship, David.
Not that relationship.
Oh.
But that's been the secret to our success. And that's, people always ask us, like, yo, how you get all these people, like InvestFest, you get 50 Cent and Steve Harvey and Tyler Perry and all that sort of relationships. You've cultivated great relationships with all the people that you just named, and entertainment world as well, like, you know, Fab and all the people that you book all the time for your venues and all that. There is a science to actually networking. There is a science to actually establishing relationships that we have, at least. But I'll be interested to hear, like, how do you look at it? Like, what's your blueprint for actually getting relationships and maintaining those relationships?
I think you said it perfectly earlier. You said you got to over-deliver. And that's been my formula since day one, right? I just turned 34 last week. And since I was 20 years old, I booked the first person I ever had hosting an event. I identified at 20 years old that I was able to build a relationship through booking them, but just showing them great Southern hospitality, right? And, you know, people always gonna remember how you made them feel, right? And so when people would come in town, I would make sure that I would roll out the carpet and just, you know, when they leave, they left with the best feeling, or just having just the best time whenever they leave. And so that's kind of been my formula since then. And, you know, most successful people are just people who understand, people who get it. And just like how you guys have been able to grow your brand and your company, it's because y'all over deliver. Like, y'all don't, you know, show up, you know, half cocked. Like, you really go through the motions of making sure that you set the tone for the next thing that you're going to do. So I think that's really been the formula, just over delivering and, you know, not always making it about money. You know, I don't come from money. I've been able to build something for me and my family, my daughter, you know, my mom, you know, and I'm proud of that. But it's because, you know, you got to be intentional with what you do. And you got to make sure your intentions align with, you know, internally, you know. So that's a real big part of it.
But then also, to follow up directly, is the law in one of these books to give first, right? Like, before you receive. That's vitally important. And that's how we actually met. I don't know if you remember this, but we met on Clubhouse when Clubhouse was a thing. And I think it was Meek, you, Swiss, a bunch of other people. They brought me on and we was talking about crypto for a little bit. And then we was like, we got each other's number, and you hit me up, and he was like, I think it was for Meek though. He was like, I want some information about Bitcoin. Like, can you provide information? But I'm saying that to say, it wasn't like an ask for you directly, right? Like, you were intentional about trying to help somebody else, which help us as well, because we're establishing a relationship with a celebrity or whatever, right? But that's how you came, and you've done that a few different times, where it's like, I got an opportunity for y'all. Like, you didn't come saying, like, people come in like, yo, can you mentor me? Or can you do this for me? Or I'm doing, like, you know, like, you found a way to try to bridge a gap, add value for somebody else, build a relationship. Is very organic, right? And 5 years later, we still rock with each other today. So think that speaks a lot to your character, but it also speaks to actually building relationships. Like, you don't want to go into a relationship being selfish. And that's something that people have to understand. Ask for help right away. Well, that's a selfish act, right? You might not look at it like that, but you are. You're being selfish.
Don't go to the table with your hand out.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Find a way to add value first, and then you won't have to ask for anything because the law of reciprocity will bring it back to you over the course of time.
Right. And like I always say, like any table you sit at, you should bring something to it. And everybody's value won't be in the form of currency. You know, some people value you may bring some good energy to it. You may bring some great ideas. You may bring some finances. You may bring some relationships, right? But when you pull up to the table, don't ever pull up to the table looking for anything. And I think part of what helped me over the years was that I'll show up to the table and I'll bring the table and I'll provide the knives, I'll provide the food, right? You don't have to, but I'll make sure that I'll try to bring as much as I can just so I can show that, you know, bring value to the situation. And I remember just over the years, just that journey, it was like I was always calling, you know, like I got a great relationship with Envy, Angela, and a bunch of people. And I always tell people, I'm like, damn, it's like people thought I used to be paying Breakfast Club for the amount of times they were mentioning Morrow's on Breakfast Club. But no, it's like I had great relationships with them. Like anything I could ever do, like they come to New Orleans, I would just roll the carpet out and we built an organic relationship. And they would literally, if you mention New Orleans, they're going to mention Larry. They're going to mention Morrow's. And that's because any opportunity I had to just do anything for anybody, you know, I would do it. And that also puts you in position to where it's like, I'm confident I can go to somebody and ask for a favor. Why? Because I'm not calling you to ask you, not saying I don't need your help, but I believe when you over-deliver, you put yourself in a position to where you can, you know, go to the table and, you know, if you don't have it today, you know, the homie may help you with that, you know?
Clap that up, man.
Yeah, clap it up. The name precedes you, and it's true. You said something important, man, and I think it relates to a lot of us in this room, including us on the stage. We didn't come from money. And so, like Dave, my favorite chapter is that financial trauma chapter. I wonder, as you're obtaining success and wealth at the same time, did you encounter financial traumas that you weren't even aware of, that you were experiencing? Like, what are some of those things as you were starting to get money that you realized, wait, these are bad habits? Where did these habits come from?
Bad habits. I think gambling, of course, was a bad habit, you know, of mine. Man, I would say, I'm not going to say I'm the best with money. I'm very risky, and I'll probably sometimes do things that don't make sense, but then they somehow make sense some way. I don't know if you call it luck or just God's grace, but, you know, I would, you know, I mean, honestly, I couldn't afford to not, I couldn't afford to fuck up, excuse my French, but I couldn't afford to mess up like that because, you know, I'm the only man in my family, right? It's my mom, my grandmother, my sister. This journey was just, you know, it was us. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of weight on my shoulders, but I appreciated it because that was the same thing that was motivating me. Even though I was looking to get rid of it, it was the same thing that inspired me. So I'm like, you know, it is what it is. But I would say along that journey, I would think that my trauma was just more so like just sometimes not knowing when to not press it, right? I always press it to the point to where it's like it don't always work out the way it needs to, but you know, I'm okay with that, right? So I think my endurance for being a risk taker and willing to bet it all, like and having to like lost it through events or gambling, it just taught me to where, you know what, at this point I can't really afford to do what I did. I gotta preserve some of it. And even right now, I'm going all in, you know, like I'm going all in, which is probably not the best for any company to do. But, you know, right now it's like, it's momentum, it's a lot, you know, I'm learning still, but, you know, with the vision that I have and the resources, it's like, you know what, you gotta take that shot, you know?
Love it. Hey, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. You got a question? You got a question? I have questions too. You got a good question? Is it a good one? Let's just get into the Q&A. I'm gonna call and We're probably gonna take like 3 questions, okay? And the next 2 gonna be ladies because it's all men up here. So, y'all got questions?
When you're going through lows as an entrepreneur, because I know there's like bad lows, how do you get through it in a healthy way?
I mean, even when I'm going through lows, people don't know it, right? Like now I got so much weight on my shoulders to the days where I'm like, man, what did I get myself into? But I think, like that regimen, it helps me. Like I wake up early in the morning, like early, 5 a.m. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, went to the gym, got it out, and came home, showered, chilled with the family, got to work. And like that's like how I really cope with like just everything, just going to the gym. That's like my stress relief. Excuse me. So like it's just one of those things, man. You gotta pray, you gotta stay consistent, you gotta grind. It's never gonna be easy. Nothing worth having comes easy. So you gotta understand that there's going to be some things that hinder you. There's going to be some demons that try to get in your way, but you got to really just stay focused and stay prayed up. So you got to find your own regimen, like your daily habits that you're going to practice, that you won't let nothing take you out of. And that's kind of what I do, man. For the past 6 months, man, I've been waking up every morning, 5 or 6 o'clock, working out. And I feel like I'm with all that I have going on, I feel like I'm built for it right now because I've been strengthening my mental, my spiritual, my physical. And I haven't drank in 4.5 months, and that's the longest as an adult. Look, you might see a video with me with a bottle of 1942, walking the other day at the second line, but I ain't drinking none of it. I was pouring it to everybody.
And they got the pictures, Larry.
No, listen. No, I was making sure hospitality. I was making sure everybody good. But I haven't drank in over 4 months, and as an adult, for me that's big because I've never done that. And I'm in the industry where I'm in the club, I'm in the restaurants, everybody wants you to take shots. So I'm just so focused right now, but those morning daily regimens that I follow every morning has really been keeping me sane and has kept me sane over the years.
Yeah, I think it speaks to a lot of emotional maturity as an entrepreneur. So like what he's saying, like you couldn't have done that 10 years ago, right? Like you had to go through some things, to experience some things, to realize that there's some maturing I have to do as a businessman. And it's kind of one of these things we preach is just having an even keel, calm temperament, right? Like you look at Shadi right now, you wouldn't know if he signed a $100 million deal or if he lost $10 million. It's going to be the same exact demeanor. You see what I'm saying? And so we've always focused on the next things. We have InvestFest, 60,000 people come, and they're like, wow, you guys should really be proud of yourselves. In our minds, it's like, yo, I know we got an event next month. You see what I'm saying? Like we're always looking like, how are we going to over-deliver the next time? Yo, we got this book coming in 6 months. And we got to make sure that that's good. We got to over-deliver. So we don't really celebrate the way that most people would, normally think, right? Like you've done events and it's like, all right, that's good. Well, you already know what the next thing is. We're always thinking ahead. So when there's a low or a disappointment, I guess, in business, it's like, okay, what did we learn from it? How are we going to execute it? What are we going to do to implement to make sure that it's a success next time? When it's something that's great, it's like, all right, that's great. Pat everybody on the back. This is great. Nice job. How do we make it better next time? Because always, in business, you always have to make it better, right? You want people to come back. You want to have returning customers. You want to have returning followers. You have to continue to over-deliver, but you got to have that emotional maturity to say, all right, let's stay even keeled and let's keep going.
Yeah, I think too much celebrating isn't great because sometimes you get caught up in that celebration, you forget that there's more work to do. And I commend y'all because, I don't think y'all realize how much y'all really killing it. I've been to Earn Your Leisure. I've seen y'all grow that over the years and just y'all brand grow. And, to grow so big and to remain as humble as you guys are and to not, most people, they win a game and they thought they won a championship and that's cool. You should clap. But at the end of the day, you got to remember that there's always more work to do. And the celebration will come at some point. But when you really want to take it to another level, you gotta lock it and focus. And so I think that's where I am right now. It's not too much celebration, even though it's a lot of celebrating around. It's like I'm focused right now.
I think to piggyback off of that too, especially what Larry said, it, Jim Jones actually has a really good quote where he said, if you lose your motivation, stay consistent, because consistency is gonna bring back your motivation. So if you're not always gonna be motivated, you're gonna get discouraged. But if you stay consistent and you're doing the right things every single day, eventually you're going to get successful again, and that's going to bring back your motivation. But like what Troy said, as far as staying even keel, that's extremely important. Like not getting too high, not getting too low, because the problem is that when you get too low, you get depressed. When you get too high, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because from the top, there's only way to go is down. Even if it's a little bit down, like now you're kind of disappointed because it's like, damn, I wasn't at the high. And then you say you only celebrate when the game is over. Like you celebrate at the end of the NBA Finals, or you celebrate when you win the Super Bowl. Well, that to me means that it's over. If you don't celebrate in the third quarter, I've never seen that before. So it's not over until it's over. Like there's ups and downs in life, and that's the beauty of it. Like you could be down to your last dollar and be a millionaire next week, or you can be a millionaire and be broke in a day. I've seen both happen. So in life, it's never over until it's over. So you got to keep that mental fortitude and that composure. You always got to keep your composure. That's one thing. I'm a big boxing fan, and when Floyd fought Conor McGregor, I never forget. Like when Conor interviewed Conor at the end of the fight, and he said Floyd not really that at that point in time. He's not that fast. He doesn't really hit that hard. He wasn't really that witty, but he's extremely composed, and that's what carried him to the victory. His composure carried him to the victory. So you just gotta be composed. Like that's vitally important. Like keep your emotions at a low level, because emotions is going to kill you if you're an entrepreneur. You're going to get taken out of the game in 1 week. You're going to get high, you're going to get low, you're going to be rattled, you're going to be crying at night. Like, stay even. Goes great, we'll see what happens. If it goes bad, we'll see what happens. Just keep working.
Emotions is put you in the stock market too.
Another roller coaster.
Yeah, like quick story. Like when I started investing in the crypto, if I would have been able to control my emotions right now, I'd probably be sitting on, so much money, because I bought Ethereum at 317. I bought Bitcoin at 30-something, and I made a great investment. And because I didn't understand it, it kept going up and down in the drop, and I lost money. My emotions made me pull my money out. But now it's like, after that, I've learned the game. You got to be able to sink money in it and let it sit and just wait. And so I've been sitting around waiting for about 4 years, and I'm waiting on my moment.
We all wait.
So I see me flying on a helicopter. Y'all gonna know?
I'll meet you in Cannes, Larry.
Oh, for sure. We're getting some Bitcoin tonight. All right, clap it up for those answers. Thank you. All right, introduce yourself.
Hello. I just wanted to say thank you to Rashad and Troy for creating this platform for us. I've been following you guys since 2022, and you have, between you guys, Aristotle, and the master investor, Ian Dunlap, I have been able to 10x my brokerage account just by NVIDIA alone. My question to you guys is, and this goes back to a comment that David made a few minutes ago about Bitcoin. It's at 100,000 right now. Kind of too late for a lot of us, regular people to get in. Would you recommend us investing in a exchange traded product such as iBit just to get a little exposure to Bitcoin, or would that not be the best move at this time?
I think the language is important in that, because it's not too late, right? Bitcoin allows you to invest whatever you have. So if you have $100, you can invest that. Your percentage is your percentage, right? Look at it as a percentage. So if your $100 grows up 20%, right, you've made money. Because it's fractional, and that's in the stock market as well. You can buy fractional shares until you have enough to actually own a share. So it's never too late. And people think, oh, it's 100. I don't have 100,000. I can't invest. Well, if you got $50, you can invest, and it'll be that decimal of your ownership. So no, I wouldn't say that it's too late. The ETF thing, I think, is a good way if people are looking to invest. It's a safe way, because we know that Bitcoin is not, quote unquote, regulated by the federal government. And so when you're investing in products, you want to have that safety of knowing that this is not going to fall off a cliff and there won't be any way to get my money back, or how do I get, it's a process, right? Like the education around cryptocurrency is its own thing, right? Having a ledger or getting it on Coinbase and having security codes and having catchphrases, there's a whole process into ownership. A safe way to do that is the exchange traded fund. I know that Bitcoin has one, Ethereum has one now. And so once you start seeing the United States government and I mean, large financial institutions, BlackRock, for sure, investing in that space. It's a good sign, and the safest way is probably through that ETF.
Okay.
And congrats on 10X. She's going tomorrow tonight. She's going tomorrow 10X.
I was actually gonna go to the next side of the room, but this lady ran up on me. I'm next, and ask her nothing. It was just I'm next. So here we go.
Thank y'all so much. My name is Natalie. I'm huge fans of all of you up front. I'm asking a question for a friend. He has a health startup. He would like to know if y'all are investing or actively writing checks right now. He's a guy, so he couldn't ask for you.
Presently, like tonight? No, we didn't. Our CFO is here. She's in the front. That's not usually how it works. But congratulations on that. And that happens a lot. A lot of people have great ideas, and I always tell them that's great to have an idea. And yes, us being up on stage is important, but there are people in this room that could be as valuable, if not even more valuable to you. Because after we leave here tonight, we'll be back in Houston or in New York. But the people who are in this auditorium right now live in this community. You're probably gonna see them at the supermarket. You might see them at Morrow's. And you guys can have meetings on how to build, right? You might not need this check. If 10 of y'all are here do it tonight, y'all got a business together, and that's something that we always try to encourage. When Larry calls, we come. When we call Larry, he's coming, because we need to show each other how to work together. So yeah, it's good to look at us and say, oh, these guys must have wealth, they can help. But like, look to your neighbor, because they can help.
Yeah, for sure. 3 things I'll say about that. The first one is some game that we got that was pretty insightful for somebody that raised hundreds of millions of dollars from very wealthy people. This is some free game for you guys if you can do what you want with it. If you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. Meaning, when you go to a rich person, right, and you say like, I got this idea, and if they hear you out, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna give you advice. Now, if you go to a rich person and you say, look, you go to the rich person and you say, I need money, they're gonna give you advice. You go to the rich person and you say, I don't really want any money, I just want you to just hear me out, right? Like, what am I doing wrong? You have expertise. Larry, you have expertise in the hospitality industry, and you've established yourself as one of the top entrepreneurs in New Orleans, and I want to start a food truck. Like, this is what I'm doing, right? But my presentation, I've over-exceeded. He's going to be like, damn, I need to get in on this. Psychologically, right? Because I'm going to ask you, what you chase runs away from you, right? So when you chase money, it's going to run faster away from you. Never chase the money. So I'm coming to you with the idea, I'm laying it out, it's beautiful presentation, the deck, everything is official. You're going to say, yeah, I want to get into this. Can I get involved? I might be able to get you involved, but I gotta talk to my other people, like, let's circle back in 2 weeks and let's see if you can actually find a way on the cap table. As opposed to me saying, Larry, I need $100,000 to start a business. It's not appealing to you because you already know that I'm in a desperate situation, and psychologically, it puts you in a disadvantage. That's the first thing I'll say about that. The second thing is that even asking for money, you always got to start with the MVP. Something that you can actually do right now, minimum valuable product. So it's like, from a food perspective, instead of starting a restaurant, start a ghost kitchen, or start a food truck, or start a catering business, right? Because then you work your way up the ranks to the point where you go through every part of the process to a point where you might not actually need that money, or when you do get the money, you'll be better off, as opposed to starting at a position right away where you need money. That's gonna be detrimental to your business, even if you do get the money, because you skipped so many steps. So I tell entrepreneurs all the time, getting money is the last part of the process, not the first part. And the third thing is that if you really have went through the process and you have done all of that, then hey, try it, right? Try to network and if you have some opportunity, but how you go about asking for money is going to determine if you're going to get the money. That's something that you should really, really think, because it could lead to discouragement if you have asked like 37 people for money and nobody's giving you money. You're going to think that this isn't for me, or I'm not going to get, like, you know what I mean? But sometimes the way you're doing it is just not the correct way.
And I think, like a lot of people want to get investments but don't know how or what they're going to do with it. All they know is they want to grow their company. So when you go into somebody, you want to get some money, but you may end up burning a bridge because you don't really know how you're going to scale this company. All you know is that you want to start a company and you want to open it up. But if that fails, you're burning a bridge. And not saying that, you can't have the right idea and it just don't work, but you don't want to lead with money. And I think, it is more appealing when, you can see a company passionate and growing. It makes you want to invest. Them dressing it up, or starting off on a food truck and, plating it and making it look good. It'll make somebody like myself say, you know what, man, let's open up a spot. Because at this point, I'm not trying to continue just to create these concepts. Like, I want to invest, partner and do things like that to, scale up it, or maybe buy a restaurant in order to not have to start all over, So I think that's been a great strategy, because I get a lot of people that want to invest, and I haven't taken on any investments. And the fact that I haven't, it makes, even when I have the conversations and I don't, accept any offers, it makes them, want to continue to ask me. So it's a good position to be in when you, sometimes just don't lead with that and you put that on the back end. Because I know now if I want to take on some investments, I could probably, if I start raising funds, I could probably, raise, tens of millions, just by really not just keeping it exclusive,
Okay, real quick.
Good evening. Shout out to Natalie, because you miss every shot you don't take. But my question is, how do you determine what information that you have that you want to give away, as opposed to what information you want to charge for?
Yeah, it's public school, private school. I went to public school and I went to private school, so I realized the difference. Our public school is free for everybody. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, millions of information, hours of information. But in any public school setting, there's going to be 30 kids in the class, 35 kids. You can't have a hands-on learning experience, but you can still be successful. Everybody doesn't need to go to private school to be successful. So if you want free information, we give you free information. It's relatively the same information, but if you want a hands-on learning experience, well, that's something that we can curate. Well, that's in EYL University. That's in an app that we've developed, right? Where you might have Troy teaching options, but he's teaching it to 20 people or 200 people or whatever, but they get to ask him questions. And it's a community. And we actually, see, the thing about school is that it's a good model, it just hasn't been updated. Like, as far as how they have it structured with like school colors, mascots, groups inside of it, that's actually a brilliant model that has been developed. It just hasn't been updated to 2025. So now everything that they don't teach in school gives us an opportunity, because we can teach it in a better, more efficient manner for a fraction of the cost of what college can cost, right? So as far as like what do we determine, we teach the same thing, but it's the experience that's different. And like I said, you can get a regular experience and that's fine. But if you want a more hands-on learning experience, well, we have that for you as well.
Yeah, I'll make it as brief as possible, right? So how many people watch Market Mondays?
Hold on, that's it?
That's it.
How many people watch Market Mondays?
I'll do it on Mondays. Yeah, Market Mondays is the simplest way to put it is a what to, right? Earn Your Leisure University is a how to, right? So like you might hear me talk about those stocks, you might hear me talk about an ETF, you might hear us talk about, these are the what's, right? I'm giving you the information, like you should keep your eye on this. This is why you should keep your eye on this. Inside of EYL, here's why we're watching it. Here's what we're watching for, and here's when we're actually going to execute when it gets to a point where I think we should invest. So yes, that public information is key. The private one is like, all right, now this is going to change your wealth strategy. This is going to change your wealth plan. This is how you 10x your money. Shout out to her again.
All right, I got one more. Okay.
Hi, you guys.
Hey.
My name is Valentine. My question is, are you guys manifesting or thinking that EYL will ever be an IPO? And if so, do we get first dibs?
It's a goal. It definitely is a goal. Yeah, I think we got the 3 letters that make sense, right? EYL. Yeah, it's definitely a goal. And it's discouraging when we look at the amount of black-owned companies that are publicly traded. But again, it leaves an opportunity for us to say, all right, well, we have an opportunity to change that. And I think we have the brand that can do that. And it's interesting, if you look at all the companies out of the 5,000, you've never watched one that was in its infancy stages when it began, right? Like we saw Meta after we had already been using Facebook, go public, right? Earn Your Leisure, you watch in my dining room, right? To us creating Earn Your Leisure University, to us creating our merch brand, to us creating InvestFest, to us now having what's going to be a New York Times bestselling book. You watch all these things, and you've watched us build different assets. You literally watched a company be built to eventually become a publicly traded company where now all the people who supported it can now own a piece of it. I think it'd be the greatest story in the history of American, the American stock market. I think so.